get started. This is the Measure DD February 20th meeting, which is a makeup for the January 20th meeting, which got put off because of the necessary response to the storm that had just happened. My name is Adrian Cotter. I am on the agenda committee with Myra Redman and John Bowers. We're both on call, I believe. We have a small group of people here today, so if you have a question, feel free to speak up and ask, unless the presenter asks you to not do that. So Terry, if you want to set the ground rules for yourself of when you want people to ask you questions.
Will Mandolin be joining us?
Mandolin was here. I'm not sure why she dropped off. She should be back in a moment.
Right.
I will chat her just in case, but I'm not sure what happened. I think she started the meeting, so. As per usual, we will go around and do introductions. And I think I've already said my name, so I will call each of your name, and if you could just introduce yourself and if you're part of an organization or why you're here, that'd be great. Bill?
I'm Bill Threlfall with Waterfront Action.
John?
John Bowers. As Adrian said, I'm on the agenda committee of the Measure DD Coalition. I'm also on the board of directors of the Lake Merritt Institute.
Katie?
Sorry. Yes, I'm Katie Noonan. I'm co-chair of Rotary Nature Center Friends and on the board of directors of the Lake Merritt Institute.
Terry?
Terry Fashing, acting manager for the Watershed and Stormwater Management Division and acting DD bond manager.
Thank you. Vivian?
Hi, I'm Vivian, concerned citizen.
Welcome. James?
James Van, Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt, the group that did the design for Lake Merritt Boulevard and kicked off Measure DD.
D.
All right, thank you. D. Rosario, East Bay Regional Park District, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Lee.
Lee Orick. I'm a resident of the Lake Merritt area, so I guess I'm an interested citizen.
Welcome. Josiah?
Hey, I'm Josiah Albertson, on the board of the Lake Merritt Institute, with the Essex Civic Action Committee as well.
Dr. Bailey?
Dick Bailey, I'm on the board of the Lake Merritt Institute.
Myra?
Myra Redman, Myra Redman on the agenda committee, and I clean the lake with the Lake Merritt Institute.
And her cohort, Bob Redman.
Bob.
That's a Community Action Committee.
Rick?
Rick Rickard, Bike East Bay, and occasionally associated with D in the Park District.
David?
David Wofford, co-chair of the Rotary Nature Center Friends, and welcome back, DD Coalition.
Nancy?
I'm Nancy Forboard, and I'm here from the Essex and Lake Merritt. I'm the president of the HOA there. We're very interested in everything that goes on here and everything that you're doing.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Mandolin?
Hi, I am back. The camera may not work. Hello. I'm having internet issues with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation, and I am here to support administration. I'm glad to be here.
So the first thing I want to start off with was agenda committee elections. So the current committees, as I said earlier, is myself, John Bowers, and Myra Redmond. And each year we open it up to see if other people would like to serve on the agenda committee. So if you are interested in doing this job, any one of us could sort of give you a little bit more heads up about what it is if you're new to this thing and are interested in doing it. James, I see your hand is up.
The present agenda committee has only been in place for about a year, and they've done a fantastic job. I'd like to recommend or to nominate the re-election of the present agenda committee.
All right. I think that we got a second from Bill there. I've been on the agenda committee for 3 years now. And I don't know if John or Myra, if you are interested in continuing. If you're not, it would be good to know. But
I'd be very happy to cede my place to anyone who is interested. And if not, I will continue to do my best.
I feel likewise, Adrian. I'm willing to step aside for somebody else who wants to be on the committee, but I'm willing to keep doing what I've been doing.
all right. Well, unless there's anybody wants to raise their hand, otherwise we will have those nominations. And if somebody else raises their hand in the meantime, we can consider that as well. So we will pick that up next month. So next on the agenda is, and if you don't, sorry, I should have shared this earlier. If you don't know what the agenda is, it is linked from the email, but I will paste it in the chat as well. So I want to hand it over to Terry next for the program manager's report. And just before you start, I just want to say thank you for being here on a holiday. And I think we got a request from someone in Public Works not to schedule meetings on holidays in the future, which I personally can agree with. So I think the only usual time that happens is January. So if you can remind us that we should pick a different date for January, that would be great. But we can come to that later. But I will hand it over to you now.
Okay. And I want to say thank you to everybody for your flexibility. It was truly a very busy January with all of the storms, and then my workload increased so much due to all of the projects that suddenly were in my lap, and our one civil engineer who we have was promoted to a new position in Department of Transportation. And so I was really doing a lot of the job of the civil engineer in our group. So just thank you so much for your flexibility. And yes, that would be great if we could not hold these meetings on holidays. So thank you so much for saying that, Adrian. And so I'll just move into this. And people feel free to ask me questions as we go along, that's fine. So let's see. Okay, the CIP process, we were able to add all of the Measure DD projects to the list of CIP projects, and almost, I would say, we declared that all except for one DD project were considered extensions of existing, sorry, did I say that incorrectly? All of the projects that the Measure DD Coalition recommended were determined to be extensions of Measure DD projects approved by Council long ago, like in 2003 or 2005, I forget which one. And thank you to Bill, because you provided the absolutely perfect information that allowed me to say, yes, these are extensions of projects. So technically, we don't need to add those projects to the CIP, but we did anyway, and they have been prioritized. And so we do have a draft prioritized list of CIP of Measure DD projects. So they're prioritized among themselves, if that makes sense. In other words, we use the new CIP prioritization process to prioritize these projects that are eligible for Measure DD funding. And so they're all in there. And as soon as that list is finalized, then we'll be making the whole list available to the public, because that list will go to council. And I think that the job that the Measure DD Coalition needs to do is to sit down and look at the money that is left, and I'll get your input as to how to distribute that funding across all of those projects. But so I guess what I'm saying is that technically we did not really need to add all of these projects to the CIP list, or most of them. However, we did add them, and so they will end up as unfunded projects in the CIP book, because we have not sat down and said which of them we're funding with remainder funds and which of them will wait for funding until the next tranche of funding is available under Measure DD. And so there's still work to do, right, to match funding to these projects. And I would actually really like to have this be an agenda item at the next Measure DD meeting. And one question I have is, are we going back to our regular schedule of meetings? Are we going to just meet in March as usual, even though we are meeting in February?
I believe so, unless there's a movement to do otherwise.
The agenda listed the March meeting, the regular day for the March meeting. That's the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really good to me. And I would like to have the CIP projects on the list. And by then we will have a really good understanding of the remainder funds. And yeah, I think that will be a good discussion to talk about all of those CIP projects. Then one thing I'm hoping to at least get a little discussion today, if it's okay, given the agenda, is I would like to talk about the Lake Merritt category of funding, and talk about the need to fund aeration devices or oxygenation devices in Lake Merritt. And I wanted to get a feel for how people feel about prioritizing that project over all of the other projects that are waiting for the Lake Merritt funding. I mean, waiting for the Measure DD funding. I'm sorry, I caught my son's cold, and so my head is foggy tonight. I'm like struggling with this respiratory cold here. And so the Lake Merritt funding category, I'm hoping that we could at least consider applying the remainder funds to a new Lake Merritt project, which would be to add aeration or oxygenation devices to the lake. And I am going to actually use some Measure Q funding for that as well. And so I'm feeling really good about that, at least the pilot project, but I would like to try to put together more funding so that we can do more to protect water quality in Lake Merritt. So So are there questions about the CIP projects that you want to talk about right now? I think we've achieved the basic goal, which is to get all of those projects on the list or into the city's CIP book. But we have not had a discussion among this group about about the remainder funds and how to think about applying those funds to those projects.
Where can we see a list of all these CIP projects?
Well, I can share a list. So let me go through the rest of my manager's report, and then what I'm going to do is share this list with you. Okay, I'm going to share it up on the screen. We have shared it around. You all gave it to us. Then we even had it posted up on the website, I believe, and I can provide it to you. What I need to ask is if there's any reason why I cannot share the scoring yet, how all of the projects scored. I just need to ask my CIP person about that. But yeah, I can share. I'll just let me go through the other part of my report for the sake of making our way through this meeting, and then let's come back to talk about the CIP projects. So,
20 seconds, Carrie, congratulations. The process of doing what you just described and getting it through the CIP process is not to be underestimated. And thank you.
Thank you. I had a few late nights. Let's just put it that way. I've been on a learning curve, but I've learned a lot about the process, and it's still, yeah, I'm still learning. Thank you. So
I just want to acknowledge and thank Adrian and Bill and Terry for working so hard on this, and it looks like a successful outcome. Thank you to all of you.
thank you. Yes, absolutely. A few others of you as well, but Bill's very detailed write-ups that he did on each one of those projects were very helpful, and same with Adrian. But Bill really dove in and was like, it was this report, and here's the project, and here's how it connected. It made my job very easy, and I really appreciated it, Bill. So thank you. Okay, so let me move on to, I'm looking at this. Oh, 7th Street Tidegate operations memo, right? That one, I sent a reminder to Hank Ackerman with the Alameda County Flood Control and Water Conservation District on Thursday. He has also been incredibly busy because of the storms that happened in January. It had been planned that Kristen and Hank and I were going to meet in early January, and our plans were changed because of the storm. So I have made contact with him again, and I will contact him weekly until we can get a meeting scheduled, because I think he's a very busy person. It's hard to get time with him, but I will keep being persistent. And I need to meet with him and Kristen to talk about that memo. I have shared all of the Measure DD Coalition's comments, and we want to just finalize that memo. I will be, what I want to get are written comments from the Flood Control District. We're also going to have a meeting to discuss it. And we're also going to have a meeting to discuss all of the questions that were posed by the DD Coalition that you are asking about the 7th Street pump station, flood control pump station. And then what Hank agreed to was to answer all of those questions, and then to have me provide the answers to the coalition. And he wants city staff and watersheds to become more educated about that pump station, so that we can help answer questions as they come from the public. And that is one service he would like us to provide. And they do provide some funding to us to help run our program. And so I can charge the time that I spend working on this, I can charge it to the pot of funding that the flood control district provides to us. So I, pardon me. So that meeting has not happened yet, and he has not gotten back to me to answer the questions, but I will continue to be persistent. Okay. I just wanted to let you know I haven't forgotten about that. And then
Terry, before you go on, envision that
you're cutting
public
out.
able to attend. Oh, sorry. Do envision that members of the public will be able to attend the between city staff?
Well, he wants to have an internal meeting with me. He wants to ask us about the memo that was created. I asked him that originally. I said, the DD Coalition, they have a lot of questions about the flood control station, about the 7th Street pump station. Shall I send them to you? And he said that he would prefer that we provide the questions to him in writing, which we did, and that he would get those back to me, and that I would provide that information to you. So I'm not in charge of him. If there's interest in anyone on the Measure DD Coalition is welcome to contact anyone from the flood control district at any time, right? I have no control over that. I have received questions from you, and I have sent those to him, and I'm waiting to get those back, the answers back. And so I am trying to be persistent, and I wanted to have a meeting with him so that Kristen could kind of explain the history of that memo. We could discuss it with him, and then he needs to provide us with written comments so we can finalize it based on the comments we've received from you all and based on their perspective as a flood control district. But as far as having a public meeting, no, I cannot arrange that. But if you all wanted to go to him and ask for a meeting, then you can do that, But I'm just having an internal meeting with him to learn more from him and to answer the questions that I've received from you all. So
if I could, my hand's been up for a while, and so it seems like people are just asking. So anyway, I would like to say thank you so much for this very delicate and difficult negotiation. And I think the questions that were provided were excellent and should be answered. My concern is that what will be the revision process that the city will undertake after this discussion, because I think there's a great deal of dissatisfaction with that memo that was voiced not only in questions but in criticisms. And I just hate to think that he's going to think that the county is going to think that that's what the city wants, or maybe it is what the city wants.
I have made it very clear. I have provided him with all of the comments that came from the coalition, and I will be sitting down with all of it, right? The memo, the comments from you all, the comments that I received from him. And also the thing is that this was envisioned as an operation manual that could be useful to the flood control district. And I don't know that it will be. I don't get the feeling that they are going to use this as an operations manual. I would prefer to not put any more time into something that does not look like it's going to be that useful to the flood control district, So I would rather focus on, making sure. I think what happened in Lake Merritt last year is really going to be the thing that drives changes that may need to occur, should they need to occur. I think that has, it's definitely a conversation starter, right? Like we want to improve water quality in Lake Merritt, and we want to, I think the flood control district wants to operate those floodgates and their pump station in a way that is beneficial to water quality. So I think we're all on the same team and may look at things a little differently from all of our different positions, but I think we all want to move towards better water quality in Lake Merritt. And so I think I don't want to get stuck on that manual. I want to kind of finish it and make sure that it's keeping that it is correct, and I want to make sure that it is just finalized, right? And I'm kind of stumbling over my words here. All I can say is just give me a little bit more time, because I do want to get the final written comments from the flood control district and then sit down with it myself, and then we'll figure out what it will look like, if it stays in final draft form, or if we can finalize it and maybe the coalition will be happy. But my problem with it is that it is a manual that maybe no one is going to use. And so I feel I don't want to put a lot more time into it. I want to focus on getting the flood control district to answer your questions, and then figuring out if there's something that I need to do in terms of communication with the flood control district to find out if something can change if necessary to improve water quality. But it's not my call, right? All I can do is say, hey, this is what I've learned, and this is my perspective, and here's the perspective from the Measure DD Coalition, and I have no control over the flood control district, right?
Terry, I think you're taking the right approach to this. It would be nice if Hank and the county could be given a deadline of some sort. They're
Right.
obviously stonewalling.
Well, I'm not sure I would call it that. I think they're just really busy, and I will just be a very persistent person, right?
Good.
And I want to finish this off. And also the other thing that really got put on hold is there was going to be a second public meeting about Lake Merritt, and I was not able to pull that off in January. And when I get back in the office, and then probably this week, we'll look at scheduling that next public meeting. So that did get postponed as well. So anyway, we're running out of time in this meeting. I want to jump into something to just get it out of the way, which is the update on projects. And then I want to talk about the staff expenditure reporting overview and the implementation plan, and then circle back to the CIP, and then move on to the rest of the meeting, which is going to involve water quality in Lake Merritt. So I probably shouldn't have gone there. Sorry, my voice is trying to go away. Okay, so I will give this little project update real fast. Okay. Gonna try to share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Oh wait, there we go.
Yes.
Y'all can see that? Okay.
Yep.
So, okay. Okay, this is a repeat. These are completed, and we're not giving updates on these projects. No change since May 2022. So I don't have updates on these projects. Crowley Trail, I have that on my list of things to get an update on. I think this is a project being implemented by East Bay Regional Park District, so I'll be reaching out to them on that. Glen Echo Creek Restoration Project, we don't have an update on, but we will, we are ramping up to get more work done on that project soon. We've had to, just due to our busyness and lack of staffing, we've had to put off some work on that, but I think our consultants are steadily doing assessments, and ultimately we're working toward doing a public outreach effort, as well as getting our 30% designs together. Creek restoration at Beaconsfield Branch, that project is going to have to wait we just are not taking up work on that anytime soon. And then the Measure DD Coalition Administrative Support Contract. Mike is planning to work with Mandolin and perhaps Adrian, I'm not sure, on doing some map updates this month, or yeah, probably this month. He told me he's working on that. So then we already talked about this. I'm going to move past this one, the Tidegate operations guidance for the 7th Street flood control facility. I gave an update on that. Lake Merritt signs. Jennifer Stern is going to make sure that installation happens in February or March. We had a bit of a delay due to the wrong equipment coming in. So then this project is the Lake Merritt Channel 7th Street pedestrian crosswalk. So it was repaired in November 2022, and then it was damaged again in December 2022. I do not have an update as to whether this has been repaired or how bad the damage is from December. However, with all projects that are implemented in Oakland, with whatever funding is used to implement them, once they're completed, then complaints, or when projects are damaged, they have to go through the regular system. So complaint will go into 311, and then the staff who are responsible for making repairs will put the request into the queue, and we'll figure out when a repair can happen. And so that is the case for this one. I do not know if a formal complaint was sent to 311 on this one. And I do not have an update on whether it's been fixed. So
It has not been fixed. I will double check whether or not there's a 311.
okay.
I
So-
see two hands up.
Okay, go ahead.
James, or D first, and then James.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a quickie update on Crowley. The
Okay.
seawall was heavily damaged in the last storms, and we're, according to our lease agreement, the Port of Oakland is responsible for the seawall. But the biggest concern is that the soils on that plot are highly toxic, and so we're going to be negotiating with the Port of Oakland to see if they can mitigate that or not. So that's where we're at with Crowley.
Thank you, Dee. I was hoping that you would have an answer to that. So thank you so much for letting
You're
us
welcome.
know. And James?
Yes, with regard to the 7th Street
Yeah.
crosswalk damage, is that project out of warranty? In other words, is the contractor still responsible, or are we beyond that date?
I think we're beyond that date, but I will double check that, okay? Because I think that is not something I have ever checked into. So I will ask the project manager when, and I'll have an answer. I can provide an answer back. So has anyone here made a complaint to 311 about this particular one? About this?
I think I had sent it to Mike, and I thought he was going to do it. I'm not seeing it on there.
Okay.
So.
I will talk to Mike about that, and I'll talk to Ha about the warranty. Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, and I put a little thing in here. Damage to any city project can be reported to 0311. And when it's the Measure DD project, if it's not past warranty, then I can talk to the project manager. Okay. So I did talk to Craig Hahn last Thursday about this decomposed granite path repair. He told me that last week he was speaking with the vendor. He was having trouble getting, sometimes hard to get a contracting mechanism going here at the city. and so that has led to the delays, but he said he was starting to make some progress at figuring out how to procure a contract to get the vendor out there to make the repairs. So I will continue to stay in contact with him about this one, and just make sure that this is moving along. I know it's been delayed for a while, and I will continue, checking in with him. And I know we can invite him to give an update at the March Measure DD meeting. So that's a note to me to ask Craig.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, with regard to the path repair,
Yeah.
I had read that it's been kind of difficult to identify a contractor. Has a contractor now been selected?
Has not been selected, but Craig told me that he thought he had figured out a way to do it, and
Okay.
that he is going to he thinks that it will now move more quickly. And
Okay,
so-
if there is any problem in getting a contractor, I would suggest that the original contractor who did all the improvement work be asked, see if we can get, can make connection with the subcontractor who the original contractor used. It may
Right.
already have been done, but I throw that out as another suggestion.
Okay, great. I will bring that up to Craig, and I'm not sure of all of the details about why it has been difficult, but I will talk to him about it more. He seemed to think that he had figured something out that needed to be figured out, and that now things should move along smoothly and quickly. And so I will be touching base with him about that. Okay, so then Lake Merritt channel improvements at 10th Street. This project has been really difficult. It has suffered many delays, but finally we did, as the project manager, Rebecca Dar, she was able to let you all know that we finally closed things out with the contractor, paid the cost of all of the closeout change order costs to finish all of the work. And so we finished things with the contractor. However, we still have the problem of the mitigation wetlands, and the permitting agencies cannot close our permits because the mitigation wetland was damaged by encampments that were in the park a few years ago. And so luckily, finally, Rebecca was able to put up a fence to help protect the wetlands, and she has hired ESA to design repairs to the wetland. And she and the consultant have been meeting with the regulatory agencies to really sort out what are the final conditions that the city needs to meet to be able to finally close out those permits. And so let me just see, how many things do we have here? So yeah, they feel like they're getting really close to getting clear communication from the staff who work for the regulatory agencies, and things are moving along nicely. And we think we're going to be able to, do replanting, do the necessary maintenance in the wetlands, and with the help of, volunteers who are going to help us keep it weeded out there, and then get it into good enough shape so that we can finally work with the regulatory agencies to close it out. So now I feel like I'm going on too much, but we're making good progress on this, and Rebecca Dar has done a great job. So point is, we're getting there. I can't wait when I can say that we are there. And I know that Rebecca Dar was working with some folks, and maybe that was you, Katie. We were going to try to get some volunteers out there soon.
Yeah, so I was gonna save that for announcements, but we're going out tomorrow.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Between 1 to 3 p.m. and I was gonna put the info in chat if people wanted to join us. And then
Okay.
we're going to go on the 25th, Saturday from 10 to 1. And
Okay.
Lead Warriors have added that to one of the options for their organization as well.
Saturday the what?
The 25th, so it's all this week.
Okay, I will try to go out on the 25th.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
we were out there scoping it out, and it's quite a
Mhm.
different place than it was if you were out there the last time when Rebecca took us out to help clean all
Yeah.
the detritus. So
Okay, it's meaning it's looking better.
oh well, yes and no. I think the atmospheric
Oh.
rivers did quite a sweep of the vegetation.
I see.
Yeah. So, but
Gotcha.
maybe they're in a good way. Maybe I don't know. I think it's a natural way.
Okay.
There is
Yeah.
there is still a lot of trash down there. But
Okay, plenty
Oh
to
yeah,
keep
there's
the
stuff
volunteers
stuff
busy.
to do. Hope you'll be there.
Okay.
Where,
Great, and-
where exactly are you going to be?
We'll be in the wetlands along just inside the channel from the Green Bridge. There's a path sidewalk behind the auditorium, the Kaiser Auditorium, and there's a big fence that was installed. There's a gate in the fence, and we'll be there at 1 o'clock tomorrow. If you would like to show up with our Adopt a Spot operation there, we'll have pickers and bags and directions and so forth if you'd like to come.
And then Saturday, what time?
Saturday from 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
And
Okay.
tomorrow from 1 to 3.
1 to 3. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for that update. Okay, so moving along here. Okay, Oakland waterfront access. So Estuary Park. Project was awarded a grant from the California Coastal Conservancy Climate Adaptation Fund, the Measure DD Coalition, maybe Agenda Committee someone wrote a letter of support. Maybe that was Bill. So thank you to
It was.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, for writing that letter of support. So they got that grant, or Chris Reed, the project manager, got the grant. The CEQA EIR addendum and 95% documentation had to pause to allow time for the enhanced shoreline design to advance / catch up. Because that is the part of the project that the grant is funding. So phase 1 construction is planned for fall of 2025. We're still though getting funding together for this project. So I'll be working with, talking to Chris about the funding and find out how the project is going to be funded and how we can move Measure DD along so that we can get to the point to sell the 4th tranche of, to raise more money in Measure DD to pay for, to help fund the Estuary Park project, because I don't think that all of the funding is there yet for that project. And so we're down to the end of Series C spending, and it's a little tricky to spend enough to be able to sell the next tranche. And so that is my challenge, and the next important thing that I'll be working on. So, and Estuary Park is a big motivator there. So Union Point Park to Park Street Bridge Trail, this is this project. There are 3 parcels. We would like to build the Bay Trail through these 3 parcels. This is a very, very challenging site, as you all know, or those of you who have been coming to these meetings know. So here's an update. Let me just get these all here. So draft phase 2 environmental site assessment report was completed and is under revision. California hazardous lead levels found at Miller Milling. And so we're working through the implications of those findings. And then doing order of magnitude cost estimating for easement acquisitions through those 3 private properties. So that work is in progress. So I will be meeting with the project manager. The project manager for this project has changed. So I will be setting up meetings with her regularly to just make sure that this project is progressing, because we've put so much time and effort into this project. And from my point of view, I want to make sure that we are making progress. And then if we get to a point where it is, at some point, we need to decide if we hit a roadblock that is really hard to get through, and that we're, you know, maybe not going to be able to get that trail through there anytime soon. And we might want to look at putting that one on hold for some time, or looking at alternate routes around that to extend that portion of the Bay Trail, because the cost of this particular project is going to be extremely expensive. And so I will look forward to future conversations with the DD Coalition about this particular site, because it is, we're continuing to make really good progress, but at some point we're going to have to make a decision about which route we're going to take. And if it becomes impossible to, if the property owners do not want to provide easements, we're going to have to figure out how and if we can proceed, and we're going to have to speak with our East Bay Regional Park District partners to figure out how perhaps they could assist us to be successful with this project. So I'm again taking too long on this report. Let me move on.
Let me ask the question that I have.
Yeah.
I welcome this conversation. And for the last 3 years, I have recommended that we just detour around these properties because for 3 years, we've made hardly any progress. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to come back to the situation where it's not feasible to go through them. So we're going to have to detour around them anyway. But anyway, I welcome the conversation. And
okay.
What it looks like is happening is what I've projected all along. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'll just throw out the word, the term eminent domain. When you're dealing with a private property owner who doesn't want to grant access to his property, that is what a public agency, and the East Bay Regional Park District knows that very well. They have used eminent domain in a number of very significant situations, and so they may perhaps be willing to use, or at least think about using, that governmental authority in this situation.
The city of Oakland almost has a policy of not using eminent domain. It's the very last thing they will consider. So I don't think it'll get very far with the city council on that recommendation.
Yeah, it's tricky because the city is, you know, they're the people would like to see the Bay Trail extend around the Bay. There's a lot of support behind that effort. Yeah, so it's difficult. This is, I suppose, a political decision that will be made. But yes, so between now, so my goal actually between now and the March meeting would be to have another conversation, to be in on another conversation between the project manager for this project and our partners at East Bay Regional Park District. I want to get a detailed update from the project manager and then talk with the park district and just kind of figure out how much longer we're going to be, like what are our next steps here, and what would it look like to try to acquire these properties, and what would the cost be, and how long would it take to raise the money to be able to do something like that, and what are the alternatives? The alternative would be to go around, and is that feasible? And so we'll we'll keep looking at this, but I understand how long this has been going on, and I would like to make progress. Go ahead, Bill.
Rick, pardon me, Rick, this is Bill. I'm wondering, do you, Rick, think it would be worthwhile for the new project manager that may be unaware of all the extensive work that you put in for so long with Miller Milling on this, to at least have a conversation with you about that?
I'd be willing to talk. I mean, it sounds like we keep meeting more roadblocks. So I don't know, Dee and I could certainly sit down and talk. Dee, what do you think?
Yeah, it's worth conversation.
Yeah, I would like to speak with you all about it. And yeah, and with the project manager, who's not new, it's Ha Nguyen. So it was Ha, and then it was Rebecca Dar, and now it's Ha again. And so it would be good. And then to also meet with a couple other folks from East Bay Regional Park District. We had some fruitful conversations with them about a year ago. A lot of what if, you know, and I think it would be a really good time to get back together to talk about this, especially now that the HA is working on this project again, to just make sure that we're all on the same page. And yeah, so
sounds good.
Okay, so that's an action item for me to speak with the project manager to ask her to set up that meeting.
Great, I'm available.
Okay, cool. All right, good conversation. Thank you. So Fruitvale, staff working to secure a construction contract for work to start this summer on the waterfront trail at Fruitvale. That's great. Park Street Bridge connection. I don't know why this doesn't also say High Street. Sorry about that. We'll have to fix this slide. But in any case, the High Street Bridge design for the bridge trail connection is discontinued, as we have said in previous meetings, because the Mariners said that it would narrow their passage too much. And so we have handed that project off to East Bay Regional Park District to pursue an upland, inland trail route. And then I feel like this thing is written in a way that is problematic. So sorry for that first bullet. It needed to be corrected. So the Park Street Bridge design for the trail connection under the Park Street Bridge is on hold until easements can be secured north of the bridge. And of course, that is at that 7th Street Miller Milling, site. So until we resolve that site, we cannot have a place for the Park Street bridge trail connection to land at the north side. So that one's on hold until we can make progress on the other project. So Cortland Creek Restoration Project is moving along nicely. So I'm just going to get all of these things out here. So we have all of our permits that we need, all of our external permits. We are working to get our final permits for grading and creek protection permit from the city. We got a creek protection permit and a tree removal permit from the city to implement phase 1 of this project. So actually in February, maybe that project is still going on to remove all of the trees that are being removed for this project. That project is underway right now. And then the creek restoration portion of the project should be starting in June or July of this summer. So that's that. The big update is that we should complete this project, the construction of the project, in by the end of September, and then we'll be doing planting later in like November or December, and then we'll be done with that project. So that's been great. Then the watershed lands acquisition project, Mike worked with a consultant to map priority acquisitions areas using a GIS model. And what this basically did was tell us where to look for vacant lots to consider purchasing. And we looked at ecological and equity factors. And our next steps are to overlay parcels on the model and evaluate prioritized parcels for price, willing landowners, and other site-specific and overall strategic factors. And then we'll share plans with potential funders and reach out to property owners regarding acquisitions. So this is a picture of the model results. So it's basically the green areas show us where we should go looking for vacant lands that could possibly be acquired. And then we have a potential partnership with East Bay Regional Park District on Claremont Canyon expansion. We're also looking at a Derby Creek parcel donation from the county tax assessor. And then we have longer term goals we're working to achieve, such as coordinating with East Bay Regional Park District on the landfill closure at Dunsmuir. And that is so that we can connect parcels that were purchased with DD funds. We're also looking at potential conservation easement of Temescal Creek headwaters, undeveloped parcels, feelers out to various property owner on donation or sale of property and conservation easements, and internal coordination with city departments on conservation planning. So Mike has been busy. He's picked things back up, and we're trying to just move that along so we can buy some property and use that funding and move to the next step. So that's the end of that. And then I want to open up this little table. Whoops, wrong table. This one. Whoops, that is not right. Sorry. Sounds like someone has R2D2 in the background. Okay, here we go. So this is the table. Bill, so basically, Bill Truffall and I met, and Bill explained to me the information that the coalition would like to see in this financial report, and we got partially there. My fiscal staff person who helps out with Measure DD, we were all set to roll up our sleeves and work on this. And then this ransomware attack happened, and we didn't have access to Oracle. And so we got a lot of this done. I don't think there are errors in this table. However, if there are, because we weren't able to double check anything or get as updated information as we wanted to, because we only had reports that she had, that were not totally current. Then we'll be making updates to this table. So when we meet in March, this table will be updated, is what I'm trying to say. But it was very bad luck that we didn't have access to our financial records right at the time that we were really working on this together. So, but Bill has asked for us to provide information by each project for the percentage of staff costs and staff benefits. And so we will be adding that information in. Go ahead, Bill.
I just wanted to say that Terry and I had a good meeting, and the goal was to figure out a way to obtain additional staff cost information without requiring staff to prepare a whole new report, and which would be burdensome. So my thought was, if we could simply modify this existing report that we've received for many, many years and are all familiar with it, to simply add that additional information, then that might be a reasonable compromise. That's a work in progress. Terry is assured that we're moving toward it, and I think it's enough to just to know that by hopefully next meeting we'll be able to see something there. So thank you, Terry.
That's right. We're going to get there. And one thing that did come up when I met with Lita about this last week was that the allocation of the 5% for admin, for administrative costs, that 5% is not, it applies to administering Measure DD bonds. And so it's like, for my time to be at this meeting, for our fiscal person's time to process invoices, things like that, the OPRS contract, Mike's time to work on, you know, the Measure DD Coalition webpage, things like that. That the money that we have for Measure DD earns interest, and so our question is, can we allocate 5% of the interest and use that for administrative costs? And so we'll be looking into that so that we can further update this table, because I just want to point one thing out for full transparency in this meeting, and then we can talk about it more at the next meeting, and we can talk about it today as well. So I'm going to scroll down. Oops. Sorry, this table got kind of big because I added columns. So now the end of the table is, I mean, the end of the PDF is like the last columns of the table, and the beginning of the PDF is the first columns of the table. And so I'm going down to the bottom here. All the financial stuff is towards the beginning. So, okay, so this one is where we have our administration totals. So this is the 5%. And you can see that we have a negative right here. And also this row is, it rolls up into the total, right? So this 50,000 is part of this 1.3 million. But the problem is that I have not gone back in time and brought in all of the details. So I'm going to be working on that. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm sorry, I meant to lower my hand.
Okay, good. So what I'm trying to say is that I want to pull in more details so we can tell, so I can more accurately explain what it is we're looking at here. But so it doesn't make sense to add this OPRS contract here without adding all the past details, because we are showing project by project up above. And so what I probably will do on this row is just add up all of the money that we've paid to Waterfront Action as well as OPRS all in one row, right? And then the other row will be the remainder, and then that will add up into the administrative row. If you all are not following me, I'm sorry, but I'm just saying that this spreadsheet needs a little bit of help. And I will say that we're 28,000 in the hole right now. But that is not what I wanted to say is, for full transparency, that is not, we're more than 28,000 in the hole. We have been charging. This was a decision made prior to me being the DD bond manager, but we have been charging admin time to one of our projects, so that, and the idea is that we would pay that back under the Series B. But there's this amount of money, let me get there. The Lake Merritt to Estuary connection, this amount that is Series C allocation spent today, this is administrative spending. So this 581,000, almost 582,000, that was for, staff time working on Measure DD. So that's some of my time. Anytime I worked on Measure DD administrative, I charged to that fund. Kristen Hathaway's time working, as well as Mike Perlmutter's time working, and our fiscal person's time working to pay invoices. So this is an amount that once we determine that we can allocate the 5% of the interest earned, then we will move that allocation into the administrative fund, and we will move these expenditures down into there. And so I have not been charging time because when I came to start being in charge of this, I see that we're so in the hole in terms of admin costs. And this is I think what I've been told is that this began during Series A, and it continued into Series B, and we've always been behind. So I think the administrative cost for this for managing Measure DD has exceeded what was originally provided, and so I would like to look at how we can get this into better shape. But I am just being fully transparent that we have spent more than 5%, and we've charged that to this particular canceled project. And as mentioned, if once we speak with folks at the city who can answer the question, we may need to go to council, but we would like to take the 5% of the interest, move that allocation, and then that will basically pay for this 581,000. And then we'll hopefully, when we get to the next Series D, we will just be very careful not to exceed the 5%. Go ahead.
Gary, thank you for your transparency here. I think this is the kind of thing that, if it's not understood clearly, can create some discomfort. So take your time to work this out and resolve it. And once the adjustments are made, please try to come back with a clear and understandable presentation about it.
Gotcha. And what I am saying, this is very clear that we have charged for our administrative work to a project on a temporary basis. And I do not know that I can go back and explain why we exceeded costs in the past. So I will do what you just asked, but there will be limits to my being able to explain what happened in the past. What my goal is to make sure that we are just following all of the practices necessary to show our charges in the right areas, and be accurate in our bookkeeping, and provide clear explanations for the totals that we're seeing. So go ahead, James.
Well, this is not unlike what we suspected, and that's why we asked for this kind of breakdown. So we knew this was happening, but we felt that it should just be documented so that it could be more, on the conscience of, the department staff. We knew that it was going to run over, and so this is not surprising, but as Bill said, we'll just, work out the numbers, do the best you can, and then just show it to us as a way of transparency.
Right.
But it's not that surprising. We understand that.
Right. And when last week, when I was going over all of this with my fiscal person, I didn't feel comfortable yet until I can get an answer that we can allocate that 5% without going to council. I did not feel comfortable yet to move that in, to show it in the admin row. And so, but I just wanted to say publicly that this number right here of expenditures, and I should have written a note into this spreadsheet, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but this 581,843, this is for admin charges. And we need to move these charges out and into the administrative category. So we will be doing that. So thank you for your patience as we work through these details. My goal is to just have this table in really good shape, and we can go over it every time we meet. Okay, so moving on. Sorry that took so long. Let's see here. So this I think the best thing for the list of CIP projects is this is the list, and basically I think what I would like to do is just send a list out to the coalition. That's the list you provided to me. I'm going to send it back to you, and I'll show you what the cost estimates were. Like I think park staff, OPRYD, and our CIP staff put cost estimates on these projects, and I looked through them, and some of them seem really good to me, and where I thought they were not correct, I recommended some changes. And so I will provide this list back to the coalition, and like I said, we can talk about it at the next meeting. But as you can see, we have a number of projects. There's the it goes from this 18th Street Lakeshore Avenue project, down through this whole page. All of these projects are the Measure DD projects. And then
Hey Terry, I would suggest if you just send us this before the next meeting and we go over it then.
Yeah, that sounds great. We will do it, and I'm going to send it to you in a slightly different form. So
yeah, that's great.
Okay, and that is it, right? Yep, that's it. Now we're going on to the next one, water quality monitoring.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll just start off to say that we were able to hire Lake Tech. They put 2 buoys into Lake Merritt, and they're monitoring temperature and dissolved oxygen, and then some indicators of algal growth. And we're going to be meeting with them to better understand how we can view the data. And we will be putting a website together, a web page together in the next few weeks so that we can provide the data that we're receiving to the public.
Will there be a public portal for the city buoys?
Yeah, a public portal.
Through Lake Tech? I mean, they have a public portal.
Correct. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can't really raise my hand because the camera's not working, but it's really great that we've got 3 buoys out there. The city has 2. The Lake Merritt Institute installed 1. But I was wondering why there were only two city buoys, because there's kind of a glaring gap in that we need a buoy downstream from the pump station, from the channel, so we can monitor what's coming in and going out, through the channel.
It was all we could get together from a contracting perspective and funding perspective at the time. And it was just a minor miracle that we were able to do it. And because we had an existing task as part of our storm drainage master plan, and we were able to work with, work within the city's contracting rules to have our consultants hire a sub-consultant, Lake Tech, to assist us with this urgent project. And we did what we could with the tools we had available in terms of contracting and funding at this moment. Our goal is to, or what we're working toward, is to get recommendations on where to put some aeration devices. Apparently what people are thinking about recommending, Lake Tech already has some idea of what they would like to recommend, and they think they would like to see us put in an aeration device in one location and maybe oxygenation device in another location, and those would be installed on a pilot basis. So they'll be providing us with recommendations. And then
do we have an idea when that might be?
well, I'm hoping in March. So I will find out for sure what our plan is, if it's going to be March or April. They would like more time, like, of course, to measure the DO and temperature and be able to see it. Like, ideally, the consultants we're working with, they would like to see a year's worth of data before providing us with recommendations, but they're going to do what they can with the data that they're obtaining and with past data that has been provided by the water board and by Katie, by your group. And they think, Eli already has ideas for what he thinks needs to happen. And I know Alex Horn has provided good information, and our other consultants as well. So they kind of already know what they think they're going to recommend, and they just want to get a sense of they want to look at some of the data and then get back to us. And they're planning to do it in March or April because we need lead time for contracting to be able to,
Do we have any idea when there may be an RFP for the pilot project?
Well, it's going to have to be in April or May, but it depends on what we might end up doing is using one of our on-call contractors. And so the contracting piece, I'm going to be working on that this month. And so I'll have a better answer for you, Dr. Bailey, at the March meeting.
The public portal for Lake Tech, I think pretty much could be activated most any time. I mean,
yeah, it's already up. We just need to get it up. We'll be sending that link out this week. And I think Mike should be able to get a page up just at least to put our public portal on this week.
Could LMI share theirs as well?
Yeah,
ours is up and working. They're gathering more data, and it should go public within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So Dick, there is a public portal for LMI, but we're not ready to release it. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Eli wanted to wait until there's a little bit more data, but you and I, well, I can go on there, and I think you can probably go on there and see the data.
Yes,
from the
there's
last
one
10
that
days.
anybody can go on to. Also, we each have our own accounts, and then there's one that anyone could go on and look at now. And I prematurely dropped something into the chat, but we have been collecting community monitoring data, and by community citizen monitors using a water board sonde, really for several weeks, and with some interesting point readings of the basic water quality indicators. And as I said in my drop-in, that would like to urge that the community monitors be included in this process of looking at the oxygen budget and changes, because it's a very changeable body of water, that we be able to contribute our findings to that. We've documented, and I dropped in a link to where you can go and see the data that we have collected, or the charts related to the data that we have collected, that indicate that the fish kill of August 22 was a time restricted and somewhat unique event. And so it's important to continue to collect data on a wide basis, because there can be localized blooms of phytoplankton, and that's another integrated aspect of this whole story. There have been at least 3 blooms since the August 22nd. 2 of them have happened, they're totally benign and they resolve really quickly, and the other one looked a little worrisome, but it also resolved early. But it's good to have people looking at these things, and that's something that our citizen monitors can do. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that that this is wonderful to have all of this technology focus on Lake Merritt. I think it's absolutely crucial and wonderful, and I applaud the city and also the Lake Merritt Institute for moving forward on this. The cost of not including the citizens who are actively doing this work would be considerable, and the experience of hands-on science and stewardship is really going to bring our community together and build the a community representative science and policy expert core of the future. And so I put some links in with this a comment about this whole project of monitoring by some of our young people from the city of Oakland who have been monitoring. But yeah.
Ideally, there should be one platform for the 2 city boys, for the data that Katie and her volunteers are getting, and for the Institute boy. And that can be done. That can be easily be done. I think Eli wants to do it that way. But they're still getting back to my original thing. There's a glaring gap. We don't have a buoy in the channel. I understand there wasn't enough funding for it, but I think that the pilot project, should, if there's additional funding there, should include a buoy in the channel downstream, so that when the tide gates are closed, we know what's happening, and we know what's coming in, because the East Bay mud discharge is not that far away from from the
Dr. Bailey, would it be possible to move the LMI buoy into the channel?
It would be possible. Right now we've got it near the colonnade, the pergola, because that's where we get a lot of urban runoff. And I think when the runoff season starts, we would we could move that into the channel. In the meantime, we've got a GoFundMe campaign running that hopefully, if we can find somebody with deep enough pockets, we can add the 4th buoy.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Terry, do you envision expending Measure DD funds to pay the cost of some of the things that you've been talking about?
Yeah, well, that is what I was just going to say, is that I would like to, get a feel from you all as to whether we could use the remainder funds that we have in the Lake Merritt category on this, on working on getting, the water quality monitoring going, and the aeration devices in the lake that are needed to keep the DO in check. Yes, go ahead, Bill. You're muted.
Terry, why don't you just start that discussion a little, and then I'll share some comments.
Right, that is what I'm looking at this table too. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes,
you are.
Okay. Yeah. I think we have somewhere around $1 million in remainder funds in the Lake Merritt category. And so this is something really that would be better to bring to the next meeting once I totally finish going through this table with all of the fiscal information and get, we get into Oracle and get everything completely up to date. And also, what was I going to say? I'm sorry, I just have this cold. My head is not clear tonight. Yeah, I would like to look at that and also talk to Eli and our consultants about the costs that we're looking at, and also look at all of the CIP projects and how much those cost and how those were prioritized, and then be able to come back and kind of show you all what the different choices would be, right? So go ahead, Bill and James.
So Terry, I think this is an opportunity to think about the fundamental relationship between staff and the coalition.
Mm-hmm.
The CIP projects for Lake Merritt that we had referred to as a shorthand by the name wish list were created in 2015 under the leadership of the then Measure DD manager.
Yeah.
And we had been pushing and working to try to advance them since that time.
Okay.
We in that process, in the last 3 or 4 years, our relationship with staff seemed to be such that we were trying to advance the projects and staff was trying to explain why the city's requirements, protocols, and bureaucratic structure didn't allow them to advance.
Okay.
Now you're coming in at the last moment here and saying, here's a project that is perhaps more worthy than any of those, and I'd like to advance it to the top of the list.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what's good about what you're doing is this is staff actually proposing a project. We haven't heard any of that for years. Instead, we had the coalition proposing projects or little bits of projects.
Right.
So we think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful that staff is saying, here's how we should think about using the remaining funds.
Right.
What I don't think is wonderful is you're short-circuiting the process that we had to go through with everything else, which was to provide written rationale, go through a prioritization process, submit documents, and so on. And then you're saying, well, how about putting this at the top of the list?
Yeah.
So when we have this discussion at the next meeting, please bear in mind that there's been a kind of a long ongoing process for pertaining to Lake Merritt. And the same thing, if we look at the channel, look at all the work that Adrian and his group did on the channel. We don't want to see those just swept aside. Okay. On the other hand, we do absolutely want to hear what are staff's ideas about how we are to use the remaining residual funds, because it does no good to just let them sit there. So we need that's why I've been looking forward with interest to the allocation plan for the last bond tranche.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yes, I look forward to that conversation in March. I'll pull it all together, wrapping my head around all of this. So I think we'll be in good shape to have that conversation. I really hear what you're saying, and I don't want to, it's all of those dead fish that are causing me to bring this up, but also I really hear what you're saying, and I do not want to try to put my project idea in front of all of these others. And I really respect and appreciate the time that the coalition members have put into the wish list. So go for it, James Van.
All right. I just want to follow up on Bill's comments and simply say, yeah, let's look forward to the next meeting where you'll bring these back.
Yeah.
But my suggestion is that when you bring them back, have a recommendation from staff that you would like us to either approve or not approve. Rather than just leave it open, you'd like to hear what we have to think. Come back with recommendations. We recommend A, B, C, and then we can do the pros and cons and agree or not agree. But let's have recommendations so it'll shorten the conversation.
That sounds great.
I think for me, and I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand, but for me and for many of us, the public meeting on the projects at the lake that was had to be put off for January, I think that should maybe precede the next DD March meeting, because we'll learn a lot about, what's being proposed in the pilot project duration and why. So if that could be scheduled before then, it would be great.
Okay, I will shoot for that. If I can pull that off, I'm not sure I can pull that off. Oh yeah, is the DD meeting the third week of March? Is it the third Monday of March?
Yes, it's the 20th. The 20th.
Okay, I might be able to pull that off. Yes, I will try to make that happen, Dr. Bailey. And David.
Hi, thank you, Terry. I want to thank you for this awesome report tonight. And I hope you feel better soon. And I can only imagine what a great report you can do when you feel better. If this is what you do when you don't.
I'm not going to promise that, but I look forward to feeling better.
Well, God bless. And I wanted to thank Bill for his past comments a moment ago. He really clarified where we are in terms of having developed these Measure DD plans and projects, and the projects on wish list, and then going through a process of prioritizing and now arriving here at this moment. So I wanted to acknowledge that and look forward to the conversation as well, as James has said. But I did want to qualify it with this idea, and that is that although I appreciate all of your hard work, Terry, and none of that could be done without you and your department, this thing that has just been recently referred to as staff request came about as a result of several conversations and many conversations involving several Measure DD coalition members, myself included. And so they're just not solely a brainchild of staff coming before us.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like we have a plan for our next meeting. Go ahead, Adrian.
I just had one clarifying question for the Lake Merritt category. The 1 million was from Series C, but I was curious if Series D would have funds as well. So that would be another part of the question.
Right. So Series D will have funding, and I think that's so that would really help me in this table if we had lots of columns, all of the columns, and could really start talking about the future. So I will try to add that in there. I think we will know at least the amount that was planned per category, right? We should be able to have that in there. So, okay, go for it, John.
Yeah, I just want to make the point. I anticipated that this leapfrog phenomenon would come up for discussion tonight. And I think that's entirely appropriate. But as far as I'm concerned, at least, what happened last August and September was completely unprecedented in the history of Lake Merritt. We lost thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds of marine resources from just our lake. That doesn't even count the rest of San Francisco Bay. And if there was ever a justification for reordering our priorities, it seems to me on the basis of what happened last September. I looked at the Exhibit A attached to Measure DD to satisfy myself that this was the kind of project that we could fund under Measure DD, and I think it is. Measure DD has this category, as you have on your table, of water quality. Dissolved oxygen, the absence of which caused the mortality in Lake Merritt, is an obvious example of a water quality factor, parameter. And then Exhibit A goes on to list aeration fountains as one example of something that could be funded to meet the goal of increasing and enhancing water quality in the lake.
Right.
I think it is entirely appropriate for us to look at other ways of expanding the quantity of oxygen in the water of Lake Merritt to increase the biological productivity of the lake. It is fully within the scope of what Measure DD was talking about. Even though if you ask somebody back in 2002 whether they were concerned about algae blooms and fish die-offs, they probably wouldn't have said that they were. But I think it's fully within the scope of what Measure DD says is its intended purpose. And so I, for one, look forward to seeing your report, Terry. And if you do come up with a recommendation that results in these aeration or oxygenation projects taking priority over some of the other projects that we have previously identified, I'm perfectly okay with that.
Thanks for your comments. Bill?
Yeah, let me be clear, John, I agree with you, and I'm not questioning the merits or importance of the proposed idea. I'm talking about process.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So, and the relationship between coalition efforts and staff efforts. So I think we need to be cognizant of that. When we look at the merits of the, whatever, we haven't seen a proposal, but when we look at the merits of the proposal, we'd like to see what is the evidence of expected outcomes and what are the alternative ways of addressing those outcomes or achieving those outcomes. We think, or at least I think, lake water quality is a critical concern, and I'm not questioning that at all. Thank you.
Okay. I really appreciate where you're coming from, Bill. Thank you so much. I will do my best at our next meeting, and yeah, we'll try to get that public meeting about Lake Merritt to happen before we meet again with the Measure DD Coalition. And the other thing that I would like to do is to just talk with our CIP division manager about the timing for all, the various projects on the wish list, because that is a big limiting factor, is getting a project manager assigned to projects. And also, yeah, so I'll come with a proposal at our next meeting.
Great.
And we can discuss it, and then we'll figure out what our next steps are.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, for everything. Yes, I think for me, the biggest mystery next is the project manager process, because I don't think that's ever been particularly well defined for us either. So
yeah, I hear you.
John, did you still have a question, or is that from your?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My hand's still up.
It was still up. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I think we've had our announcements. Katie mentioned earlier the 2 cleanups, and she posted information about the chat in there. Katie, did you have anything else to add?
Well, I did. I wanted to give some details about the cleanups in the Peralta Park area. I put that up, and I have location if people want to know where the locations are for that cleanup. One is tomorrow, one is next Saturday. And I tried to do a drop pin. I don't know if that went into the chat, but if you don't know where it is, then just it's in Peralta Park on the channel, on the Lake Merritt channel, and you can email me and I'll get that information out to you. Also, continuing the lecture series, Rotary Nature Center Friends will present Lakeside Chat number 28, The Rocks of Lake Merritt, featuring geologist Andrew Alden, on the 3rd of March by Zoom, as always, for free. And there's a link for people to sign up. I hope everybody come. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Bill, was there anything from the Estuary Park plan study group?
No, the only point was the study group was pleased to contribute a letter in support of the Coastal Conservancy grant for shoreline enhanced design, and we were very pleased that it was awarded.
David, sorry, did you have an announcement?
Oh, yes, I do. If it's the right time, I have 2 comments, like sort of a new business deal.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Oh my goodness. The one is a question I wanted to pose to D. Rosario. I could take we can catch up with him offline, but while I got him here, it's regarding the the Crowley area seawall repair and hazardous soil removal, and whether or not there's any aspect of the turning basin widening project that could be called upon or somehow to support financially the need to do those cleanups. And the other item that I wanted to report is that it's recently come to my attention that the school district has a pretty complicated and developed plan to for the disposition of the administration building. And I'm hoping my friends from the Oakland Heritage Alliance are on top of that. But I believe on March 9th, the Lake Merritt Breakfast Club, that I'm currently the newest member of, will have a speaker from the school district explaining to us what's going to happen with that building and that site. And so that's Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Between now and then, I'd like to arrange to invite any Measure DD Coalition member that wants to attend with us for that discussion.
Thank you, David. I'd be interested in that. James, you have your hand up?
Thank you. In the minutes, there was quite an impressive list of to-dos for this meeting. And I don't know if we're out of time, but what I was hoping to ask was, could we just go down that list and see if the things were either done or whether they are pushed over to the next meeting or to a future meeting? I just think they should be reported on.
Sure. So I will try to go down them now. So the assigned task one was post the coalition questions sent to the county regarding tie gate operations. There's a link to that in the assigned task itself. So that was posted. Terry, there was a 2018 report on the Peralta Creek Marsh that was shared with regulators, and there was a new report that was coming out. I don't know if that's come out yet.
Right, thank you. That should be, sorry, that'll be a to-do list for me again to talk to Rebecca Dar about that. Maybe that's out by now. Not sure.
Okay. There's a task about which reports are stored in a shared folder and which are posted to the website. I don't actually remember the details of this.
Yeah, I think it was just like, what are we going to put on the website versus not? And I don't know if it's easy to make that call.
That's not a question.
So can they be pushed over to the next meeting?
Yeah.
There was a request from us to talk about sort of having a phase 2 plan for the Bay Trail. It says Terry to discuss with Christian Reed about that.
I think that's the Bay Trail within Estuary Park.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it. Right. I'm sorry. I will do that. Estuary Park. I did not do that.
The next was having a water quality committee meeting, and that was, you talked about that a little bit earlier, that you weren't able to, that wasn't able to be arranged because of just yet, but that'll be coming up soon.
Yes.
Bill did meet with Terry about the financial report task force. That was F. G, coalition to consider developing committee of all entities surrounding Peralta Park, Laney, OUSD, Oakland Museum, Kaiser City Watersheds, Bike. I just don't. The agenda committee did not work on this.
So push it over to the next meeting.
I'd have to dig back into the notes about what the purpose of that was a little bit. Coalition to establish standard and aimed for reporting issues. So that was when we were reporting things to 311. We did some talking about that. But we haven't really filed anything recently. And the organize the cleanup for the marsh has been done.
James, thank you for bringing this up. We seem to have kind of a short memory, and I think it's very constructive to have we bring things up with great concern and then often let them drop. So thank you for the reminder, and perhaps we should do this more systematically.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe on the agenda, we could have an action item or an item on each agenda to just review the action items list from the previous meeting.
Sure.
Do we normally do that?
Is not usually on there now.
Okay. That would help me.
Okay. All right, so the task list that I have so far, and Myra and Mandolin, please, if you have additional things. So one was providing a list of the CIP projects as scored by the CIP process. Another was checking in on 7th Street, whether or not there was a 311 report and if it's still under warranty. Terry, I did just forward you an email that Mike had sent me with the requests for that signpost. So part of that is already done. And then checking in again with Craig on the degraded granite path repair. You're going to meet with Rick and Dee about Miller Milling and the project manager. You'll also come hopefully next month with a recommendation about how to spend the money for, or a recommendation about how to, which projects we should be prioritizing and with what monies, and we will discuss from that. Myra, did you have additional
Yeah, I just wanted to make an announcement for Jenny, since Jenny's not here, that the Weed Warriors will be meeting at Lakeside Drive at Harrison for a workday on Saturday, the 25th, from 9 to noon.
Okay, thanks. Were there additional, did anyone hear any additional tasks that I did not just cover there? All right.
I did the wrong reaction. I think I need to, I don't know if you said this, but I need to just make all of the edits to that table showing the fiscal information. And come back with that, with a clear report. About
great.
about the admin expenditures.
Great. Well, with that, I believe that is the end of our meeting now. If there's any other comments or questions or suggestions. All right. I guess we have, there's two suggestions for next meeting. One was if there's any information about the impact of the atmospheric rivers on the water levels when the lake flooded. I can't remember the exact date, but over the holiday. I don't know, I don't know if that would be a good conversation to have with the when you're talking about the pump station, about that particular event. And then another suggestion was about the final supplemental EIR for Brooklyn Basin, which I assume, would that be Naomi and you, Bill, talking about that? Or? Sorry, you're on mute.
So say it again, please.
One of the suggestions for the March meeting was about the final supplement EIR for Brooklyn Basin.
Well, I think Naomi wanted to talk. Naomi has been taking the lead on that. Really, the issue there is the finishing of the shoreline surrounding the Brooklyn Basin, mostly park areas. And I've been vaguely aware of it all, but I'm not in the lead on that, so I can't really say much.
Okay.
Adrian,
go ahead, Terry.
Oh, can you repeat the other agenda item about the impact on the lake of the atmospheric river?
So the lake flooded. The lake flooded pretty badly. I can't remember the exact date.
It's, December
31st. Yeah.
Yes.
New Year's
We
Eve.
have tide gate information and we have water level information on that.
Yeah. So I don't know if obviously there was a lot of drain issues that day as well. But I don't know if there's any discussion about what could have changed, what it could have been done differently, if anything, to avoid that, or
I think if you
or
look
if there's any long-term impacts from that.
If you look at weather models and the people who modeled well, there was a great deal of uncertainty about what was where, and a lot of it was dumped in the Lake Merritt, watershed, possibly unanticipated widely, and that was basically what happened.
So, I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that this is appropriate for the Measure DD Coalition meeting, that if this is a question for flood control, the flood control district, and for us, I just want to make sure that I'm not sure what I need to do to address this agenda item question. Go ahead, Bill.
I have nothing to say about that. I want to
Okay.
respond to something else.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, is it that you want to report back from the flood control district about how they experienced the December 31 storm and what they did, and how they would do things differently in the future? And I'm not sure I understand what is being asked of me, and if it's what my role would be as a DD bond manager.
Well, one question that comes to my mind is, was there any flooding that day? Was there any flood damage? Did any infrastructure suffer any damage from the high water levels? I mean, I haven't heard one way or the other.
I think there was flooding, and I have not heard if there was damage yet. I have not heard that around the lake.
Right.
But
Right.
there was flooding, yeah. So, and right, yeah, I don't know if there was flood, if there was damage. I can ask.
I think the Lake Chalet patio floating dock was ankle deep or something, and there was water that extended up to Whole Foods a little bit on the outside pavement, but whether there was damage, it's hard to say.
Yeah, right.
Didn't do the paths any favor.
Well,
I assume that the tie gates were closed, just as tightly closed as they could be for that entire day. Because I think that, you know, there would have been some massive water flows in through the channel if it. I mean, that's if there was one day when we can all thank, you know, the gods of history for putting that flood control station there, it was a day like New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Because I think it performed an important safety function on that day.
Are we
Actually,
still
I'm
in the
not
meeting?
not totally sure about that.
Still
'Cause
in the meeting? I don't know. I don't understand where we are in this meeting, in this discussion.
sorry, I had brought up future agenda items, and Terry was asking for clarification. So I think we can pass over that one, perhaps. Bill, you had a comment?
Yes,
about
just to
something?
clarify, you asked about the Brooklyn Basin EIR. It's an important matter, but I would urge the agenda committee to place that perhaps as an announcement or something near the end of the meeting. It sounds like we're going to have a lot of catching up and a really full agenda next time. And this is Brooklyn Basin's design for their shoreline is not a DD matter. And we have nothing to say about it. As citizens, as individuals, we can have plenty to say about it. But to the extent that we have other Measure DD business to accomplish in the meeting, it should go near the end of the agenda rather than at the beginning. Or I would encourage.
Okay, that's fine. David, and then we can end this meeting.
Well, okay, great. I was trying to, like Terry, understand the what the question was and what was being called for regarding the what they call it, the huge rain event, the river of rain. And so I just wanted to share what I gathered from the conversation and the thought, and that is that when a huge rain event like that happens, seems like we don't have a handle on what the county does during the course of the event and how they are, what the protocol is. And we don't know whether or not there's a way within all of that, that it's sort of an accounting of the impact of the event itself in order to be able to
Did you watch any of this?
plan for future events. And so I would just imagine that that's the kind of thing one would want to know.
We're
possible.
basically done.
Yeah, I know, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. And I just, yeah, we should probably wrap up, but yes, I kind of just want to understand what my role is as the DD bond manager, really. You know what I mean? Like at where there has to be some boundaries around the work that I'm doing as you know, my job is really kind of expanded a lot. And yeah, I'm not.
I have some thoughts about that, Terry. I'll send it
Yeah.
to you offline. I don't
Okay.
think we need to discuss it here anymore.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds really good. And yes, thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you all in March. I endeavor to not be sick at the next meeting. And yeah, and I'll be pulling everything together as requested.
Thank you very much,
so much.
Terry. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody else. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.